sing tonight. And this is a very versatile singer. Her name is Namrata Joglekar, and she is going to be starting with a beautiful song. Thoda aage ho jana.
Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our performances tonight. We are planning to sing more songs later, but we will start some entertainment now while we are waiting for some guests to arrive. So I'm going to start with very famous song, I Am Herba. I hope you enjoy it.
Actually, I was just told that they are going to start the program, so music thoda wait karega. Okay, thank you.
Friends, I request everybody to please come and take the seats. We need to start the program. Hello. Good evening, friends, and namaste. Welcome to the Foundation for Indian Diaspora Studies fundraiser dinner. Tonight, we honor the incredible contribution of the Indian diaspora and come together to make a real impact on the US policies. This evening isn't just about raising the funds, it's about strengthening and investing our community, building connections, and amplifying our collective voice. Thank you for your support and for the passion you bring to this work. We are grateful for our distinguished guest speakers whose leadership, insight, and the commitment inspire all of us to push forward with purpose. Let's make the evening more memorable and meaningful. And with that, I love to introduce our two incredible MCs. We have Shivani Khan. Shivani is a product manager who has been involved with the FIIDS for last 3 years. Her passion for tech policy and Indian-American advocacy was shaped by her experience internship with Congressman Raja Kishan Murthy. We have Tanishka Nath. She is a senior at American High School in Fremont. She has collaborated in multiple organizations and activist campaigns, along with the clubs in her school. So I'm giving the mic to these two incredible MCs, and they will take the program forward.
All right, thank you everyone for attending this event today. We're excited and grateful for seeing the passion and support in the room tonight towards our work here at FIIDS. So to get us started, I'd like to invite some dignitaries on stage for the Deepa Prajwalan, or also the lighting of the Diya and the lamp. So can we have Dr. Srikar Reddy, Ms. Vinita Gupta, Professor Anurag Mairal, Mr. Ajay Patoria, Mr. Khandrao Kant, Mr. Sachinder Nath, Mr. Yogi Chugh, Mr. Janmejay Singh, Mr. Vasant Shetty, Mr. Gaurav Patwardhan, and Mr. Chandru Bhamraji. Music.
All Uber drivers pass a background check before their first ride and are rescreened every year.
स्वस्ति श्री गणनायकं गजमुखो मोरेश्वरः सिद्धिदः बल्लाळस्तु विनायकस्त्वभ्रमरे चिन्तामणिस्थे उरे लेण्याद्रौ गिरिजात्मज सुवरदो विघ्नेश्वरश्चोऽधरे ग्रामे रान्धणसंस्थितो गणपति कुर्यात् सदा मङ्गलम् मङ्गलम् मङ्गलम्। Do you understand?
I would like to invite the founder and president of FIIDS, Khandera Khan, to the stage to share a few words with us. Khandera Khan is the Director of Policy Analysis and Strategy and President for the Foundation of India and Indian Diaspora Studies, FIIDS, a Washington, D.C.-based policy studies think tank and awareness institute focused on U.S., India, and Indian diaspora-related studies on socio-economic, political, and international security matters. He has organized and led numerous conferences on topics such as the U.S.-India Partnership Summit and Indo-Pacific affairs. He also played a key role in hosting Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit to Silicon Valley in September 2015.
I'm going to sing a movie song, which is a Desh Bhakti song, and I think everybody knows the lyrics. So आप लोग भी गाएंगे तो मजा आएगा. So do we continue or what's the next in the agenda? One song, okay. I will ask.
Hello.
थैंक यू वेरी मच। अभी अभी मुझे चंद्रू भाई ने बताया कि वंदे मातरम को 150 इयर्स हुए कल, यस्टरडे। तो एक कस्टमरी हो जाता है कि आज वंदे मातरम हो जरूर से। व्हाट डू यू थिंक? ओके, सो मैं नम्रता से कहूंगा कि प्लीज आके वंदे मातरम गाएं।
एंड में गाएंगे ना?
एंड में गाना है, अभी नहीं? अच्छा, चलो वो एंड में गाएंगे, अभी नहीं गाएंगे। ओके, तो गाना अभी बना। Okay, we will be back with some more music. I think they are going to continue with the agenda for today. Thank you.
Strategic responses to address narratives. FIIDS also keep a watch on international human rights violations, hate crimes and acts of terrorism.
So once again, welcome to for India and Indian Diaspora Studies, our annual event. During this time, we look at the past activities during the year that we conducted. We also reflect on the typical Indian American issues. Foundation for India, Indian Diaspora Studies, as we know, that focuses on US-India policies and Indian diaspora related issues. When this year started, as we know that new administration came in picture, and a lot of hopes we started with that. India's External Minister Jaishankar ji was there during the inauguration, and then immediately in the month of February, Honorable Prime Minister also had visited, and then there was a good meeting, and a lot of good initiatives were announced. One of them was trust, which is a transformation of means the relationship through the strategic technologies. So initially in the Biden's administration, there was a ISET, which is a initiative for critical and emerging technologies, and taking it forward, it is a multidimensional activities for the US and India relationships, much more into the defense, then academics, government-to-government contracts, and spanning across with the space technology, quantum computing, AI, and all these areas. So, lot of positives, initiatives started with that. And at the same time, there are two issues that we had predicted in the initial, when the new administration came. We had actually predicted that some of the things, particularly the tariff and immigration, those would not be good. And the another, also we expected that probably the conversion related, particularly anti-conversion related laws in India, they are also get challenged. So these are the broader level issues that we saw, but we did not expect that they will take the higher priority, particularly the immigration, the legal immigration. We thought that it would be little bit on the secondary, and then it will much more illegal immigration would be the first priority and the priority. And legal immigration, particularly the tech immigration, is very important, crucial for the competitive advantage of United States itself. So that is kind of bilateral agreed between the two different parties, whether Democrats or Republican, by and large agree that it's essential. So that's what we were hoping. Over a period of time, tariff actually came much more broader impact. It was much more impacting all the nations in general. India was actually in the initial phases of the negotiations, and almost the deal was getting signed up. In between that, the Pahalgam, Pahalgam attack happened, and then Operation Sindoor from India, and then so it started unfolding in a way that the tariff also got complicated because of the BRICS initially, then Ukraine oil war, and that those things were given, but they were not much more with the parity with China and etc. So those are the aspects. Subsequently, the situation became little bit impasse because of the variety of the reasons, and we'll see that it is now taking further shape. So I'm just giving the very bird's eye view of the thing, because this year it started with that, but those who are active in the advocacy, we had to do a lot of things in the background, and in this context, I'm actually presenting the report. So just wanted to set the stage before we go further. Next slide, please. Yeah. So FIIDS operate in the 4 quadrant. So essentially what we do is that we are your voice in Capitol Hill. We are continuously monitoring the policies. It could be coming out of different bills. It could be from the think tanks. It could be administration's declarations. Or monitoring that, strategizing the response, getting engaged into that. That's the first important activities that we do. The second is that the creating awareness. Once you have the strategy, once you have the reports, etc., creating the awareness in the variety of the places. It could be within the community, it could be within the local elected officials, but most importantly, the policy makers in Washington, DC, and think tanks. So these are the second spectrum, which is the most important. It could be called as a advocacy, but it's a heavily into the awareness creation, and that awareness is not like giving talks or material. It's a multidimensional. It is a much more engaging the people, meeting the elected officials, meeting the think tanks, and having the discussion, presenting the facts that what is the viewpoint and why it is important from the US point of view on different aspects. So we are presenting Indian Americans as a citizens, as a Indian Americans voice, and in that respect, and convincing that why it is important from the US on those positions. The third, which is the relationship. To do all these things, what is important is that we need to cultivate the relationship. It's a multidimensional relationship, whether to the different other communities engage into the advocacy, different organizations could be, and even the think tanks, conferences, all those things comes into that. And the fourth thing, to feed all these things, what's important is that we need to have our own community having the talent, capacity to engage into the policy. So that's why we have the fourth one, which is the creating the capacity and the talent within the community itself. So a lot of the activity, the focus of our mainly becomes that US-India partnership is the key important. In that light, it becomes the Indo-Pacific region. Then we have the India in the neighborhood. That is the focus with the South Asia. And there has been a lot of turmoil this year around that. Terrorism, bias, and locally now we are getting to domestic, so hate crimes, and whether it's a temple attacks or whether it is happening some sort of a biases coming within the variety of settings, whether it's academics, whether in the schools and colleges. So that we surface. And immigration in North America, particularly the legal immigration. So this has been the creating the facts, getting the material collateral. Some of the reports that we basically presented over here. Next one. So we create the position paper. There are a variety of ways we disseminate. We are directly engaging, directly giving, also putting in the public domains and the social media and etc. So that's one. These are the awareness creation within the community itself. We do variety of programs, but majority programs had been around the immigration. Also, some of the activities related to Indo-Pacific and US-India partnership. And we did some awareness and event towards the hate crimes and temple attacks like that. So the important activity over there is a think tank. In Washington, D.C., we have an office over here. Not the entire building is ours, so don't worry. I wish. It's just on this 7th floor, we all these meetings we see, mostly they happen, think tanks engagement over there. So we have, once in 2 months, we do the roundtables within the think tanks. And why it is important? All these policies, I don't know how many of you heard that Project 2025. How many of you heard? Okay, around 8-10 people. So lot of the policies, you see that President Trump announcing and all that thing, but many of them, they come from different think tanks. They work when they are not in power or etc. But the different strategies are actually worked. So that is one of the things which came from Heritage Foundation. President Trump did not fully committed to that actually before the election. However, we look at the policies, lot of policies are coming through that. But there is another think tank which actually we did not focus earlier because it was a very small think tank. It wasn't mainstream Republican think tank. That was India First Foundation. America First Foundation. So that actually is a think tank. Why it is important to engage is that most of the think tanks is a revolving door. So lot of the people in the administration, they come from the think tank. And if they are not so many Democrats who are not in power right now, not in administration, they are somewhere in the think tanks. And when the flip happen, you'll see that they're coming into that. So we actually engage both the think tanks, main think tanks, whether it's a Heritage Foundation, Hudson, Brookings, all these things, different top 10 think tanks we engage. And now some of the think tanks actually went down, Simpson and this one, right? So there has been, but irrespective of that, we see that the same experts, and they are the policy experts on variety of topics of that. So there are almost 100 think tank experts we engage one way or another. So with the different topics, with the Indo-Pacific, then whosoever are the Indo-Pacific experts, we invite them. If there is an immigration topic, then we'll get the immigration topic. If there is a topic on AFPAC region, then we'll get onto that. So even the US-India relations, so variety of this in a small settings, it's a very closed door, and some of them are under the Chatham House rules. How many of you knows about that? 1, 2, 3. No, just 2, 3. So that basically in that case, nothing can be attributed to that. So that it facilitates, so everything, it's not a secret, it's open, you can have, the comments can be summarized, but it cannot be that X person said like this or the view like that. So that facilitates a very open discussion within the think tanks itself. So we do that. So next one is the local engagement, just like in Washington DC we do. So in Bay Area, we did some of the things we do, right? For example, we do the democracy's celebration of democracy that we do annually because it's very important for elected officials at that level. They need to understand what's the differences between the democracy and what are the common values binding the democracies. And some of the things that they don't know, for example, India's legal system. Here now, Supreme Court is very important. There are key things in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court in USA, they are actually based on the political affiliations. They're appointed. And the people over here, they see that India might also have the same Supreme Court composition. And they think that it could be politically influenced. But India is not like that. So for us, it's so common, right? We know all these things. But the people over here, they don't know. So they assume because of lack of knowledge. So in the democracy celebration or connecting into that, we take different aspects. We need to connect with them and also bring out some of the things, some of the strengths of the Indian democracy, the institutions that they are, and then how they function, so that the incidences or variety of things would be looked at in that background. We also do the political engagement, like so we had the Raja Krishnamurti also was here, and just as an example, but variety of this engagement we do. The next one. So now we need to get the word out through the media. So these are just some of the coverages, but you can see the topic that we cover, whether it's a tariff-related topic, or it could be related to the when Pahalgam attack happened, Operation Sindhu related happened, H1B, or it could be related to Bangladesh. So lot of these topics we do cover, and variety of the media try to get it out. Next one. And the most important, the marquee event of FIIDS, which one and only one that from Indian American organizations point of view in Washington DC is at that scale is by Foundation for Indian Diaspora Studies. For last almost like 4 years, this is the 4th year, we do annual Capitol Hill Day, where delegates from lot of states. So in like say this year 22 different states, we got around 150 delegates, and they visited elected officials. We visited 120 elected officials, their offices in one particular day. And those are not just to go and then give the flyers. These are the meaningful meetings. Every meeting, half an hour meeting, 3 to 5 delegates from the team meeting over there, and pre-selected topics of 3 to 5 topics that we had selected: US-India partnership, Indo-Pacific, we had the terrorism, so legal immigration. So the topics that, and then we present that with a very nice information that why it is important, presenting our viewpoints, asking their stand on that, any questions that they may have, reply to that, and see that how we can engage into that, what are the bills may come and how they can help. So it is very important that, and then this, the whole, all these 150 people, we divide into all these different teams of 5 people, and then the whole day keep on meeting that. That's a very, and for that preparation for 3 months, all these delegates, they go through the rigorous training process, that how to speak, what to present, what not to cover. If they ask some question, what is our answer, and not their personal viewpoints. What is the viewpoints and what data, and that has been, in this year is a couple of important things. Next one. So you see that a lot of women, almost like 30 girls and women were participating into that. Similarly, youths. So 35 youths. We have last slide we had everybody on that particular picture, but lot of this participation over there, and it was very well received. When youths born and brought up here, they talk about that hate crime is happening, temple attacks are happening, what experience they are getting into the campuses. That makes a very high impact on them. So we actually covered that. Is very important from the capacity building and the leadership point of view. So these are some of the pictures, how they meeting, one-to-one meeting, etc. We do also US-India Partnership Summit, which is very important, where we bring elected officials now, and they come elected officials, people from administration, etc. And then they present what their viewpoints are there. We also present our viewpoints, but on the different dimensions of US-India partnership. So this year we had almost 24, 20 plus elected officials were there. They talked about the US-India partnership, and this happened on July 15th of this year. And you can see the atmosphere in the Capitol Hill is very supportive. Almost half of them, we can say that we touch based, and many of them, they came, and then they spoke in the US-India Partnership Summit. And these pictures, you can see that these are in the Capitol Hill, where you see the dome. In the same, we have this the program. So it's a very prestigious and very proud to feel that we have the programs talking about the US-India partnership in that setting. Next one. Yeah, you can give. So these are the different programs, like on the immigration, or we do, actually when we did the Indo-Pacific, it was on the 6th of, I think, May, and that's the time the Operation Sindoor, when our event was at around 3 o'clock, and then over there, here itself, we heard that India actually launched Operation Sindoor. And the experts actually changed the topic. Even the elected officials, they came, and then they talked about how they're supporting the anti-terrorism and India over there itself. So this is one of the important things we did. This is also one of the one kind of event that we took journalists from top institution, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Washington Examiner, and National Review. So 5 journalists, and then from think tanks, 3 people. And then there is another delegation of the business leaders went to India. And in Bharat, particularly in Delhi, we did lot of meetings. You can see that they were the diverse meeting, from the print meeting, the Shekhar Gupta, and having the discussion, because they wanted to understand. We had the meeting discussion with China experts, India's experts on China. Then had the discussion, and these are the think tanks discussion. In India also there are think tanks, so we had engaged the think tanks over there. And South Asia, APAC region, because India is actually, lot of turmoil is happening over there. And there were a lot of concerns and questions that we discussed about that. Then Niti Aayog going to the economic policies of that. So it covered a variety of topics. Also in visiting BJP headquarters. And because these were their choices. They wanted to understand how these institutions work. What are the viewpoints into that? And we became the facilitator. We said that you decide, and some of the meetings we put under Chatham House rules, so that they can have freedom, and then it could be very good. So it was very important for them to get, and we are thankful of external ministry. Generally what happens is that to get the visa to the journalist is very difficult. And then the MEA really helped us and made it is possible. And in the journalists, when they go to India, I did not know, they actually get a form that they should not be writing and publishing. And so the journalist said, how can we do that thing? But we got the exception, fortunately, with the ministry. That and they also very maturely covered in whatever the way. But this was no obligation. There was no obligation that they should cover, or they should cover in a positive way. We just wanted them to understand they should be experiencing India. We actually took them to Varanasi also. So that way they can understand the Hinduism, they can understand the premier institutions from India, including visiting RSS, this one. They wanted to understand that. They wanted to understand because they always saw the one side of the story. And ample material is around that. So they wanted to understand now how the new emerging India coming up. What is the thought process behind this new emerging India? What is the India's Hindu culture which is driving this new cultural transformation? So we provided that, and hopefully such kind of engagement that can happen. So next year, one of the things that we want to do is take a CODEL, Congressional delegation. That's why the fundraisers, this one visit itself, this cost around $75,000 because their first class tickets and then all these things. Similarly, when we take the CODEL, that will be around that. Next one. So this is also important thing that we have been last few years doing is the congressional interns. So placing interns in the Congress or on the congressional work itself. And one of the major kind of source of kind of expenses had been there because actually Congress does pay to some of the staffers, but that quota is very kind of is full with the current existing pipelines. And with all these different institutions, all that thing, they are plugged into the systems. We are not in the system. So we are getting into that. So in order to get that, we actually supported financially to them, so that it is not paid by the actual elected officials, but we took care of that. So we had 5 this year. Shivani was also there, then Vidya, Rishita. And one thing that I'm observing, lot of girls and women are getting into the policy studies, which is the positive thing. Next one. So this typically is like a 2 months of internship, 1.5 to 2 months of internship. So they work over there, they experience that, and our expectation is that after 10, 20 years, some of them continue into that, some of them goes into the think tank, some of them goes into the actual, become staffer, or they become in the different administration, or some of them may even get into the political career. So that is the one thing that we do. This is the last one. Yeah, the another capacity building we do, this is the annual one, which is a structured program, online program of hybrid kind of thing for the policy engagement and the leadership in the high schoolers. So high schoolers should learn about that, and some of them can be interested in future, and we have seen that those people who participate, some of them in the high school program, they are now interested to pursue these studies and practices. And so this is the spectrum in the capacity building. So these are the different things. I just selected some of the things to make sure that the sphere of our activity is covered, that we first do the policy related analysis, detect the policies, come up with the strategy, then advocacy, that is taking it to the elected officials. For that, engaging the different organizations, and this work is not just FIIDS or anything. There are many organizations we need to work together strategically, sometimes independently, sometimes together. We need to have a behind the door, we need to make sure that we are not taking stands which are contradictory to each other. So there is a cooperation resources over there to make sure that the people or organizations, the institution, thought process, working into this one, there is a broader level alignment. So what is good for America, what is good for India, what is good for Indian Americans. So these are the common aspect of that to bring forward, that we have to work multi-dimensional way and in a different settings. So that is what FIIDS has been doing. And I will now, I think the last one, yeah. So this year we are doing some, for next year we are doing about 160K is a total our, it's a modest one, it's not having the full-time staff, the part-time staff, so we are engaging into that, but mainly having that, then internship programs and some of the conferences. So one of the big conference we may do in the month of April is around US-India partnership or on the reimagining India. So that is another thing that we are doing. So hopefully that the tariff, most probably last week I was in Washington, DC, it seems that it's getting closer, and we may see probably it getting in by the end of this month or next month. Hopefully everything gets settled, and hopefully the US-India partnership will resume. You may have seen that the GE deal actually got closed. Now around 83 or around 100 engines will be given, and then so it is a good directional steps are happening. We hope that President Trump may even visit India. It happens, I don't know. But 2026 definitely, hopefully, would be a good lot of work we may need to do, because this year Congress has been almost paralyzed. We know that last 30 days it is a shutdown, government shutdown is there, but very few bills, important bills are getting out, so we need to work towards that. So next year is going to be very hectic. A lot of work would be needed, lot of support would be needed. With this, I will close.
Thank you for that presentation, and I would now like to invite Dr. Srikar Reddy to share a few words with us today. Dr. K. Srikar Reddy is the Consul General of India at San Francisco. He has previously served at the Department of Commerce, Government of India as Joint Secretary, where he oversaw India's commercial relations with countries in Africa and the Middle East. Dr. Reddy was born in the district of Warangal, Telangana. He studied medicine MBBS at Kakatiya Medical College, Warangal, India.
Yeah, Sri Kandarao Kand, President, Foundation for India and Indian Diaspora Studies, distinguished members of the Indian community, friends of India, good evening, namaskar. It is a great honor and privilege for me to join you all this evening for this annual FIIDS event. I've seen in the last few years, FIIDS has emerged as a very important pan-US forum for the Indian diaspora. You can see by the increasing number of activities in various areas, including policy studies, creating awareness, advocacy, and also capacity building and collaboration. We have seen some of the new initiatives such as the journalist group which was taken by FIIDS recently to India, and I've seen like there's a good progress, including the Capitol Hill annual summit they are doing. I also participated in their events which were held in the Bay Area, including the celebration of democracies. So, as you know, the Indian diaspora is now 5.4 million strong in the US, and we see it as an important pillar of strength in strengthening the bilateral relationship between our both countries. As you're aware, the Indian diaspora, while it only comprises 1.5% of the US population, contributes 6% to the US tax revenues. So Indian diaspora are very well integrated into the larger American society, and also they are known for their hard work, innovation, and also spirit of entrepreneurship. Wherever I go, when I meet with the US politicians or leaders, they appreciate the contribution made by the Indian diaspora to the cultural diversity and the socio-economic fabric of the cities and the regions. So just on 4th of this month, I was in Utah, Salt Lake City, to be there in the governor's mansion to celebrate Diwali. So the Diwali now is being celebrated in the White House and also in most of the states officially, including in governor's mansions. And as you know, California became the third state after Pennsylvania and Connecticut to declare Diwali as an official holiday. So this shows the recognition of the contribution made by the Indian diaspora, and that is seen like in strengthening the partnership, especially in the Bay Area. We have a lot of technology leaders like leading Fortune 500 companies, and also all the startups. I think I was told 50% of in the startups, either there will be a founder or a CEO will be of Indian origin. So that shows the strength of the Indian diaspora. And even the Indian government, Prime Minister Modi ji, holds the Indian diaspora in high regard. So we treat you as ambassadors, as a living bridge between India and the US. And when he visited US in September 2023, he announced to set up 2 new consulates, one in Los Angeles and one in Boston. So I'm happy to announce that we already operationalized these 2 new consulates in Boston and Los Angeles. And also to bring the consular services closer to the Indian diaspora. In addition to the existing Indian consular application centers, earlier these centers were only located in the cities where the consulates or the embassy was located. But now we have opened in 9 additional cities, including one in San Jose on the Oakland Road. So that shows the Prime Minister Modi ji's real love for the Indian Americans. He wanted to bring the consulates closer to the Indian diaspora, especially the large cities. And already Kandera ji mentioned how the relationship panned out during in the few months of the current administration. And we hope that the trade negotiations are ongoing. We hope that during this month we could have a conclusion of a trade deal. And as Kandera ji mentioned, we are also expecting President Trump to visit India for the Quad Summit, maybe early next year. And even like we have seen not only negative things like these kind of bumps were there, especially with regarding to immigration and also H-1B issue and the trade. But we have seen good progress in other sectors because we have a very comprehensive strategic partnership. We engage in all areas of human endeavor. Just to give you an example, we had reached a milestone in the India-US space collaboration. So for the first time, the NASA and ISRO They have commissioned a joint satellite, which is called NASA-ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar. This is an Earth observation satellite, which was launched on 30th of July. I witnessed this from JPL NASA facility in Los Angeles. So this takes pictures of the whole Earth every 12 days. Basically, this will help the overall climate or the overall globe. Especially, it will capture the subsidence of the land, the water table, and also the melting of the ice and the vegetation cover. So it will help not only both countries, but also this is a project. Both engineers have shown that we can not only work for the deepening of the relationship, but also for the global good. This is a very important, successful project we have done. And just recently, our Defense Minister, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh and Peter Hegseth, so they have signed a 10-year defense framework agreement between India and US. So immediately after the signing of this framework agreement, just yesterday, as Kandarao mentioned, GE signed an agreement for $1 billion to supply 113 engines for the light combat aircraft for India. So also, we are also purchasing 31 MQ-9B drones from General Atomics, a company based in San Diego. So we have robust collaboration in all areas of relationship. Only we hope that one little bit bump, we can say the trade relationship will be hoping to resolve it very soon. So I would like to take this opportunity to inform you about some of the activity of the consulate. So tomorrow we are celebrating the state formation day of 10 states in ICC Milpitas. So I invite you all to participate in the event. As you know, November, we are celebrating the state formation day of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala. We have Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Uttarakhand, Punjab and Haryana. So we'll be celebrating, this is for the second time we are celebrating, and this we will do every year from the consulate side with the active participation of all the regional associations from the states. Basically, we are doing to showcase the cultural diversity and our heritage, and also to promote understanding among the larger Indian diaspora regarding the various states, and also to promote the tourist potential of the states. So I request you all to join us tomorrow at ICC Milpitas. And second thing, I want to inform you about a very important summit India will be hosting in Feb next year, which is the AI Impact Summit. We are hosting in New Delhi from 19th to 20th. So this year, India being a developing country, we are basing this on 3 P's: planet, people and progress. So the emphasis will be on the inclusivity, ethical, responsive and open nature of the artificial intelligence. So in the run-up to that, on December 3rd, we are doing a big one-day conference at Computer History Museum, and where we will be expecting a high-level delegation led by Secretary, Minister of Electronics, IT from Delhi will be participating. And we will be having 4 panels, one on innovation, one on sustainability, one on investment, that is venture capital, and one also inclusivity. We already have all the important AI companies, senior officials and CEOs from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, all these important companies already confirmed to participate. Also request, especially who are interested in AI, and also to promote India-US collaboration in these critical and emerging technologies, especially artificial intelligence. I invite you all to participate in the December 3rd event. So once again, I would like to wish you all good health, happiness and prosperity. We look forward to working with the Foundation for Indian Diaspora Studies. Already we are doing some events, but we would like to work with FIIDS, especially in promoting the critical and emerging technologies under the Trust Initiative. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Good evening.
So, thank you, Honorable Consul General of India, Dr. Srikar Reddy. He has been one of the transformative or transformational CGI. Couple of things which are very important that some of you might have seen, some of you might not, but now the consulate is in a very prestigious building, just opposite side of the Salesforce in the 22nd and 23rd floor, very professional setup and big halls. And not only that, he has made it happen, but also opened the consulate for many organizations to host the programs over there. With that, almost every week there are variety of programs are happening. From like last week there was a NASCOM related delegation. Every week or probably almost every day you can see that activities are happening. So that is now, it's not just the related to the diplomatic mission, but it's actually making lot of transformative changes in the community and the industry. So we are really thankful of. And the second one, now, I don't know how many of you know that, but the visa application, you don't need to go to San Francisco. How many of you know that? Only 10, 15. Now it is in San Jose. And it is also open on weekend, on Saturday also. So it's very good. And a lot of things, like even OCI card, it's promised that within 3 weeks you can get it. So there are some lot of changes are happening, and I really, oh, you got it? I got it in 3 weeks. Okay, yeah. My wife got it in a single day online application. Awesome. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So really appreciate him, and he has been very transformative in a lot of things, and appreciate him. So one thing that I would like to say, get Vasant Shetty ji to honor him. Vasant Shetty ji, our San Ramon Outreach Director. And since Honorable CGI is also here, we would like to, Ramesh Punnapolli, for last 3 years, he single-handedly supported the internship programs. And every year, 3 to 5 interns he had sponsored. So I would invite Ramesh Punnapolli and Divya ji, please come over here. And yeah, just one. Yeah, you can. और एक Thank you. Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite Mrs. Vinitha Gupta ji to share a few words with us today. Mrs. Gupta is a technology entrepreneur who has lived in the Silicon Valley for over 40 years. She was the first Indian American woman to take a company public in the United States and continues to be an advocate for women in startup, tech, and Silicon Valley spaces. She is also an author, journalist, and leadership speaker.
Thank you, Shibali. Well, it's a great honor to be invited to this get-together. I am going to speak on a different frequency. I'm trying to figure out how to insert what I know, because I'm not an advocacy person. I am not a policy person. I'm just an ordinary citizen who has built my life over last 50 years in Silicon Valley. I say that because there were a lot of things about biases, discrimination, and all that. When we came, my generation came, I'm going to call my generation as a sandwich generation, and I'll tell you later on why. But when my generation came, Indians were not known to the Americans at all. They couldn't tell us differently from any other community where the skin color was brown. So we came, I remember when I came to UCLA for my education as a single woman from India, and that was 50 years back. So I'm tracing the first 25 years of my journey where I was sitting in UCLA cafeteria and a bus load of white American tourists stopped by to eat in the cafeteria. And they asked me, "Where are you from?" I said, "From India." They said, "Oh, the country of snake charmers. Holy cow." So this is how we were known as. Now, it is very gratifying to see, first of all, how much progress India has made. But that progress really happened in the last 25 years. It was 2000, and I am a technologist, what was called Y2K, which was all the computer systems had to go to a new form of from 1900 to 2000. And thanks to Infosys, who had trained they had trained Indian engineers into IT, and somewhat thanks to our generation, we established the credibility that we were technologists. So as a result, that was when our Indians' planes started taking off. So this journey is very new. We might think that it has been happening for 50, 80, 100 years, but that's not true. For us to establish ourselves has taken a long time. My first 25 years of journey I have captured in my recently released memoir, which basically, if I truly ask myself, I wrote it for next generation. And let me talk about that. Why do I call myself sandwich generation? We were bridging the gap between Indian culture and American culture. We were bridging the gap between India as a country to America as a country. But the gap which still remains is our second generation Indians born and raised here. I have two daughters who are both in their 30s. This is our living room, I call it. They're not represented in this room. Their voices are not represented in this room. And we as parents feel separated from our next generation. That hurts. So yes, we can talk about policies, but talking about our next generation, and I idealize how well the Jewish generation has done in this country. They have kept their next generation after 2,000 years connected with their heritage. We have not been able to do that. So there is a leakage in our system. If we are talking about sustainability of our mission, that's great that we are making progress in DC and New Delhi, but if we keep losing our next generation, how are we going to sustain? Are there enough Indians coming from there who are going to carry the flag? And we have learned through our experiences, I would say. So my whole thing is very different, but I think we are all sandwich generations trying to connect to our next generation, second generation Indians in this country, and the country that we care about, where I have deep sentimental connection to India. So I bring this as an issue, as a question, I don't have a solution, and to Khande Rao ji, I will say, maybe Foundation for India and Indian Diaspora Studies could perhaps study this subject. How do we bring our next generation in the fold, just like Jewish community has been able to do? Our means may be different, but it's doable. And we are losing them in one generation. imagine 10 generations later, we will lose all of them, and I worry about it. It hurts my feelings that I am not connecting with my kids. They are not mixing with us. There are a couple of representative or next generation, but that's all. But thank you for listening to my sentiments, and thank you, Khande Raoji.
Thank you so much for your wise words. I'd like to invite Jaramjeji to show a token of our appreciation.
Vinita ji has been role model to all of us and iconic first CEO of Indian American woman CEO of a public company. It's a very remarkable achievement. I also miss Naren Gupta ji very much when Prime Minister Modi ji had come. So he was the main host with Chandru ji, and I was the convener of that. And with that time, I had a happiness to work with Vinita ji very closely over there. Thank you.
Next up, we'll have our panel discussion, where we'll hear from leaders who are making an impact across technology, entrepreneurship, policy, and global health. So I'd like to invite the following speakers for our panel. The first is Professor Anurag Maharalji, who is an adjunct professor of medicine and director of global outreach programs at Stanford Biodesign. He is also a faculty fellow at the Center of Innovation in Global Health. He chairs PATH's Bay Area Leadership Council and leads the APAC Biodesign Alliance. In addition, he serves as the president of SEVA International in the Bay Area. Dr. Maral holds a PhD in chemical engineering from the University of Colorado Boulder and an MBA from UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business. He has authored over 30 publications and holds 7 patents in health, innovation, and technology.
Mr. Madhu Sudarkar is a Silicon Valley-based serial entrepreneur, technologist, and executive who currently serves as Senior Vice President and General Manager at Salesforce. With a BS in Electronics and Communications from IIT Madras and a PhD in Computer Science from UCLA, Mr. Sudarkar has built and led multiple successful startups, collectively acquired for over $800 million. Mr. Yogi Chugh is FIIDS Director for Political Liaison. He's involved in many community service programs and has worked to champion local community issues. He currently serves as a commissioner on the Fremont Economic Development Commission. I invite them all to share their experiences and thoughts in this panel.
Well, once again, thank you all. I appreciate everybody being here this evening. We're going to have a quick conversation about our diaspora and the various contexts. Vinita ji, you mentioned about the sandwich generation, and from an advocacy standpoint, what your generation did for us has been awe-inspiring, and it's on the shoulders of your success that we continue to leap towards that faith of making sure that we continue to be the model minority in this nation, and our children continue to hold on to everything that is so sacred about our Indian American origin. And that is aspirational, but it's certainly a goal that we think is in sight. We're going to have a quick conversation about some of the issues that we think are important, and this panel was handpicked for one very specific reason. Obviously, Sudhakar, through his technology, innovation, his success in corporate America with startups, and now in publicly traded companies, and then we have Anurag Maral, a professor, and there are many things that he does in the world of biotech. But more importantly, many don't know that as a part of the Knight Hennessy Foundation, the scholarship students that he takes to India, every year he's hoping to have this generation of thinkers who look at the role of how India is perceived and this perception. So this question that I'm going to pose, and Kandarauji is here with me as well, we're going to tag team a little bit upon this. But this is a question for both Madhu and for Professor Anurag Moral. Our community, and to Vinitaji's point about the comparison to the Jewish American community, many have said that we are a model minority. But off late, there seems to be this questioning of our existence. And then we want to talk a little bit about immigration. We want to talk about how the role of this US-India partnership is consequential. But where along do you think, in your individual observations, is our Indian American community perceived today? We'll start with you, Madhu.
First of all, I really enjoyed, ma'am, your talk about this. So congrats. I'm also went to UCLA, so that was good. Right. So look, my view, I'm an entrepreneur, guys. So I'm very positive. I think glass is half full. And this is where I probably disagree with madam, that our next generation is not connected. I came to this country in 1990. She came, I think, 1970 or 75. So I think the view of the world is our generations, our next generations are much more tuned to the society than when I came to this country. So I don't have the view that our kids, and I also have two kids, one daughter and a son. I think the society is positive. The way in which at least I see the world that's happening in the tech world, the Indian community is a lot more in the politics, a lot more in the society, a lot more in every area of the thing. So I think the glass is much more than half full. So it's going to like every area of the Congress. When we came there was nobody in senators, congressmen, nobody in the policy makers were there. So all the things that Kandarao, you're doing it's actually getting there. We may be thinking that our own immediate people that we interact with may not be there, but we as a society that Mr. Srikar Reddy talked, which is like we have 5.4 million people, there's enough people are going there positive. I think the bigger question is not the next generation. I don't think we have a problem or not, I don't know. I'm a solver, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an executive. So I look for how to solve it. I think the bigger picture that we need to solve is the way in which we see the world that I am seeing it is it's very reactive. What do you call the group India Diaspora group that Kandarao you're talking about, we react. If some problem happens in Trump versus India or India versus this, we react. We are a very reactive group here. If there's something we want to learn from the Jewish communities or other communities, let's think proactive. We don't even have the fund for FIIDS group. Like if I were you guys, I will create a venture fund. Like the Bay Area schools, like there's a schools in Bay Area, in Cupertino, San Jose have a venture fund. Right? They're funding their high school people. We have people dropping from high school to create companies. Right? This is Silicon Valley. How come Indian Corp does not have a fund? The fund should be for policy makers. Like if I were you guys, like you're talking about Mr. Kandarao, every year he calls me, we'll do the best we can. That's not how it should be. We are talking about 160K budget. Like we need to do something like, or even this program, nobody should be allowed here unless you pay $1,000 or something next time. So next year, nobody comes here without $1,000. Right? I mean, otherwise you don't want those people. Like I don't want to come on a Saturday, pay $10 into the entry fee for this, right? I want to pay you $1,000, right? Right. That is what, look, where I'm going there is, there are problems we need to solve. First thing is create a big fund, right? All of us. Then the money should be spent. Remember, I want to give you a few things before the important thing we should do is, we need to solve for that government that's running. Today, whether you like it or not, it's a Trump government. We are not doing a good job to show how India is helping the US government create jobs. That's his mandate. He won the mandate for next 4 years. So we need to show how US and India, that symbiotic relationship can help his policies. It should help India policies too, but we are here to help US. I'm a US citizen now. I want India to do well, but first primary goal for me is US citizenship. I'm not an Indian citizen, I'm a US citizen. So we need to figure out, this group should talk about how it's helping current admission policies. We don't talk about that. That's on the job side, right? US jobs, the jobs are happening here. Second, we need to create case studies to how the community is doing a good job, right? It's our job to highlight to the congressmen people, including to Ro Khanna, our congressman, right? He talks many times as if Indians are not doing a good job. He is our Congress guy. He is an Indian origin guy. So it's a burden is on our groups to showcase. Remember in tech we call it case studies, right? Every company, even OpenAI creates a case study. Why is it good for you? Why is it an ROI, etc. If OpenAI has 1 billion users and still trying to advertise itself. That Indian group with 1.5 billion population, we need to advertise how our 5.4 million people in US are doing a good job in US.
No, that's a very good point. And to carry off on that, Anurag and Mudu, yes, absolutely, your point is very, very valid, and we'll get to that. The policy of this discussion is there are no right or wrong answers. The question as a part of our internal reflection is that there are certain viewpoints that we bring to the table. Half the time, we even come to a disagreement on how to solve the problem. And to our point as Indian Americans, Americans first, with a deep love of India, we are often divided by our profession, we're often divided by what part of India we're from, and we're often driven by a difference of our priorities. And I can tell you, when we go to members of Congress, they're confused. They'll ask us, what part of your Indian American community do you speak about? Because I have many people who are going to come and tell me something that is diametrically opposite. But Anurag, I pose the question next to you. We are a model minority. The Biden administration promised us that. I'm a Democrat, full disclosure. But I break bread with Republicans as well. But Anurag, I believe there's a current sentiment, and while I'm aspirational about America's greatness and the role we're going to play, it is a very sensitive time. From your observations, as a model community today, if X is an indication of where the world sees us, bots included, how do we turn from a model community to a community that is under attack, one would say?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, and this could actually be a debate that could go on forever. It was very interesting with as you were talking about it. In one breath, I was agreeing with you, and then another breath, no, I don't agree with that. So I kind of kept on oscillating between I agree with you, I don't agree with you. And I actually agree with what Vinitaji said about the disconnect we feel, and I am also an optimist. That's why I'm part of an organization called SAVE. I'm a professor, so I do have to see the future is bright, otherwise I wouldn't be educating minds. But I think we live in a very different world today than we did 30 years back or 50 years back. And I think the challenges that we deal with, I think you talked about what problems are we trying to solve. You're a problem solver. The first step in solving a problem is knowing what problem we are trying to solve. At Stanford, I'm part of a center called Center for Biodesign, which is a needs-driven innovation. So the first and foremost, we need to have a clarity as to what problems are we trying to solve. And if you go by what is happening today, which is very tactical, very a moment thing, with the current sort of X debates on the X or the anti-Indian hate that you're seeing it may be a momentary thing, but it also is reflective of the changing world that we are in. We are actually becoming far more balkanized, fragmented, localized, if you will. There's a backlash against globalization. And right about the time when Global South, India is part of it, needs to be actually benefiting from that globalization. So, and then Indian American community kind of, you talked about sandwich generation, right? We sort of get stuck in between. What are the problems we are trying to solve for our community and for America as a whole and for the world at large? So that's kind of my
Anurag, perfect. And really the purpose of this is to come back and show that while we agree on many, our way to the solution is different, and that's what Khanderao, the Foundation for Indian Diaspora Studies, does. That collectively, how do you bring the hopes and aspirations of a South Asian community, an Indian American community, and one could make the argument that which is majority Hindu, and somewhere we get caught in that dogma, that are we in that box or not? But let's take this now to just a foot forward. Yes, and I do agree that President Trump was a phenomenon that came out of the hopes and aspirations of a country that wanted fundamental change in government. But that's to our point that we need to forge bipartisan relationships that transcend Democrat and Republican and our ability to speak to them. But at the same time, and I want to get to the question of immigration, but I do think that when we sit in Silicon Valley, we talk about startups, we talk about wealth generation, we talk about critical technology, we talk about quantum, we talk about the impact of AI. But when we go to South Dakota, when we go to North Dakota, then the conversation about immigration, legal immigration, is very different than H1 to allow Indian Americans to be at the forefront of helping America beat the China hegemon in the Indo-Pacific, in which India plays a critical role. So let me pose the question about immigration. We talk about immigration and legal immigration, H-1B, H-4s, EADs, the long pathway to citizenship, which is modern-day servitude, children aging out, but they're not dreamers. They're devoid of those opportunities. So let's talk about immigration for a moment. I'm a believer that H1 was the fabric of Silicon Valley. But have we ever contemplated what somebody would say in Gary, Indiana, or Indiana, where some of our biggest, largest firms are providing services to some of the largest corporations in the world? Are we be seen as STEM contributors to AI computing and the prowess and Y2K and the symbolism of what Silicon Valley led to? And how do we respond to a member of Congress who comes from Idaho or a member who comes from West Virginia? When we talk to 123 members of Congress, how do we speak in a way, as Americans, we recognize that H-1B does need reform? There has been a lot of fraud. But how do we leap forward, Madhu? How do we convince America that H-1Bs are good? And Trump saying, I want $100,000? Well, why not pay $100,000 for deep scientists that FANGs will pay $5 million payouts for?
I have a lot to say, guys, on this. So, okay, I don't know if the audience want to enjoy all of this or not. There's food served at the back. If you're boring you guys, we should stop talking and enjoy the food.
No, let's not go to the food for 10 minutes because
Okay.
this conversation will show the disconnect we face in Washington, D.C. Members of Congress who think diametrically opposite to Rose, Sam Liccardo, Eric Swalwell, Nancy Pelosi, Jimmy Panetta, and Congressman Kevin Mullen, Garamendi. They are competing with GMT. They're competing with members of Congress from Deep Red. Coal towns are being eroded. Historical black colleges, they're losing their basic survival of funding because the oligarchy and tech seems to have created income inequality. So while I'm an optimist, help me go advocate on the Hill that we speak with one voice.
I think, first of all, I think both of you asked really good questions. What is the problem we are trying to solve? We are not trying to solve immigration problem. That's the effect. This is the fundamental thing that we always look. I only think about entrepreneur. I'm not a policy maker. I don't understand the policy word. I don't know how to spell policy. But I think we are missing the forest and the trees here. The biggest problem is we need to make Trump happy about India thing. That's the problem we have to solve. Give him a Taj Mahal, invite him to Agra, ask him to collect a Trump hotel next in Taj Mahal. That's it. That will solve your problem. So stop debating it. The problem is there are only two communities in the entire world who talk a lot, Indians and Greeks. We need to stop debating and talking and do something about it. That's your problem. So there's nothing wrong with me. If it's a problem, it's always wrong. We will solve something else. What does our entrepreneurs do? You keep iterating on it. Invite him to India, ask him to treat him well, give him something. Even Apple CEO gave him a big golden plaque of the iPhone wafers. We should give something like that to Trump too. He is doing so much to the tech. Bitcoins are doing well. He and his administration really drops tech policies. So all you have to do is drive. He does not hate Indians. He does not hate tech policies. You just have to figure out how to engage every congressman and every Republican, whether Democrats or Republicans, I don't care. I'm not in either of them. I am for money party. I just want to make money. I want the society to be happy. I want people to make money. Look, we are way thinking wrongly. Immigration is an after effect. Because India and US could not agree on it, his administration may be taking something. That's my view. So you guys are thinking about the effect. Look at the cause. Cause is that tariff problem needs to solve. Figure out how to solve the tariff problem. Get both Prime Minister Modi and President and their parties to figure out. Then everything else will solve. Whether it's Infosys, Wipro, we call them witch companies. Anybody know what's a witch company? They're all those companies. Wipro, Infosys, called the witch companies. Right? I'm not interested for witch companies. They're called witch for a reason. They're making money for them. Right now, we need to worry about what can we do to solve the greater India-US bilateral problem. Tariffs is your number one problem. How do you make Trump happy about India-US? So that's the problem number one. That's it. Rest will come against. So focus on the problem, figure out how it is. Now, as Khandera talked about, I said as a grassroots on the policy, let's create a fund. The fund should donate money to lobbyists, make sure you create enough case studies, highlight how US has done good job. I don't know all the congressmen and senator names you said. I don't know their XYZ, ABC, etc. But donate them enough so that they say good things about us. That's it.
That's right.
That's why Jewish people have done it for 2,000 years.
And Khanderaji, before I let you, I would like you to chime in because as our leader on foundation...
He's always happy if you give him money.
No. Believe me, Khanderaji is probably will say that while money is the mother milk of politics, having 200 delegates from all over the country talking to members of Congress across the ideological spectrum is important because capturing the hearts and minds of government, and Madhu, you may be a successful entrepreneur, and for me, entrepreneurship may be an afterthought, but I spent 40 years in American politics. Let me tell you, the soul is sold for the highest bidder. But from a politician's standpoint, you mentioned one name, I'll mention you a lot of names. Politicians will always come back and straddle with the popular sentiment in the community, and they'll find themselves to the point of relevancy. But just coming back to the moment, we don't need 400 members of Congress. And Khanderaji, I do want you to chime in, because you and I have talked often about this. You really don't need 400 members of Congress. You just need 20 members of Congress on each side on armed services, on the Foreign Relations Committee, on the Commission on Energy, the defense, because clearly decisions impacted to our diaspora. ISAT, quantum computing, immigration, these are decisions. So let's start there. And money evolves, but I'll tell you a statement that Congressman Barney Frank, who I consider one of my mentors, he said, Yogi, I can always find money. There's special interest groups, there are corporate PACs who write me checks, deliver votes for me. I can piss off a donor, I'll find a new donor. I can't piss off a voter, I can't even tell them, move from Fremont to Union City, I don't like you anymore. So the power of boots on the ground. But Khanderaji, we'll get to that point, but Anurag, back to the question. As a model minority, and we were compared to the Jews, let's be blunt, the Jews are being challenged in America today. A generation that believes that Israel's response to Palestine was not appropriate. I think it was. I think that when you're attacked, you do things, but America doesn't think that way. The influence of AIPAC was questioned and threatened. Today they're being challenged. So Anurag, you work with students at Stanford, you work with students at Berkeley, you work with students in India and the United States. You've met Prime Minister Modi in New York when he talked about education. To Vinitaji's point, are we losing a generation of children who, while they believe in the promise of America, fail because that's what Khanderaji and I will want to focus on?
Yeah, I think we are. I'll go back to the point that I made, and again, it's not, I do think there's a glass half full part of it, but I think we need to acknowledge and face the reality. We are losing them, and we are losing them for a simple fact that I don't think we understand, our generation understands, the challenges of America well enough. In this world of localization, opposite of globalization, everything is about bilateral relationships, and we're talking about US and India here. India has an unmet need, sort of an agenda. So does America, and America has a lot of challenges. I mean, there's a Midwest went through this major crisis when manufacturing left this country about 25 years back, to the extent that there is a major economic distress in many parts of the US. Along with that came cultural shifts and political shifts, ideological shifts. And the new generation, the next generation, whether it's Indian American or Jewish American or any other American next generation, thinks differently than we do. And we need to understand, we need to have our finger on the pulse of those folks. At Stanford, I saw that I had never seen in 20 years that I've been there. I saw encampments at the Stanford campus in support of Palestinian cause, which is not wrong by itself, but I also saw violence. I saw violence which I had never seen on the campus before. Why is that happening? I think we don't fully understand what actually makes this generation tick. And in some ways, we have, the loss that we are talking about, the lost generation that we're talking about, we are actually disconnecting from the generation because we are pushing a particular perspective which may not be anchored in their experiences and the needs of, so there are two things I'll say very quickly, and then I would love to hear what Khanderaji has to say. Two things. Number one, we need to understand the needs of the communities across the US. And how does India become part of a solution of those communities? That's point number one. Second, if India and Indian Americans and India-US relationship remains on an upward trajectory, going back to Vedaji's point, how do we engage the next generation in that project? I think those are the two simple questions. I was going back to the question, what are the unmet needs we are solving for? Those are the two unmet needs we are solving for.
Khandarao, I would love to hear your perspective, because this is the challenge Khandarao and I and many of our leaders today are grappling with. How do we mobilize a generation of people to believe in America's potential and recognize that as Indian Americans we have so much to offer to this nation? How do we find one collective voice? And Khandarao, would love to hear your sentiments upon how you work through this dichotomy of thoughts to move forward, because we're not playing in a 4-year term. Trump will be long gone. We're going to play politics and advocacy over hopefully the next 20, 25 years.
So most of the Indian American first generation who came here, who mostly for their self-need, right, whether to build the wealth and do the startups and all that thing. And in the environment that we are in, we thought that all the policies and everything is fine. No need to be changed if you really look at it, right? We try to assimilate and try to do the best into that. When our people in this country, they're going, influence is growing, there are certain things that we see that we cannot stay or we cannot live in the isolation, right? We need to be engaged in the community. If we don't engage in Washington, D.C., what they say is that if you are not there on the table, then you are on a menu. So that's what we become, right? Because we have all these things, so many CEOs, so much wealth, and how much per capita income, how much is the education, and we kind of proudly say, and rightly so, that we are probably 4x times better than the average Americans. Now, look at it from that perspective. When you project over there, right, it's a different perspective. There is a tendency of a victimhood is creeping into the mainstream. That was not part of the American creed. American always in the meritocracy, capitalist thing, whosoever has the merit, whosoever has the contribution, better they can get into that. But there is some sort of, and that is where I think the engagement, lack of engagement from our community is coming up, which actually need to be getting. That is the awareness that we cannot thrive here, prosper here, be successful in our own kind of ivory towers. We need to be engaged in the community. Our Indian Americans are actually contributing a lot in terms of wealth. That also awareness need to be created. That every Indian American who get employed over here, he create probably 4x, 5x jobs. So there is a lack of awareness in the mainstream because of the propaganda that Indian Americans are taking out a job. Every entrepreneur like Muddu, I don't know how many Muddu you employed in when you accumulated that 800 million which you are yet to give to me, some part of it. but how many people employed? So that sort of 50 MNCs when like say all these CEOs and etc. So much kind of even the businesses, not only the startups or the public companies, even lot of people who started hotels, 7-Elevens, different type of businesses, they also employed the people. But that data is not available. That is not created to create the awareness that Indian Americans are not suckers in this economy. Right? But that can only happen when we are engaged and we are telling that, we are showing that. Hey, this is what we are contributing back. That goes back to what Muddu said, is that what value that we bring to this country. Right. And that is something that we are already and that is the awareness that we are trying to create, and that we can only be the advocates. So unless we are engaged into that, if we are isolated, if we are making wealth, we are peaceful and all that thing, we can still be under attack. Doesn't mean that it's a physical attack. One way or another, we are actually getting victim of the policies. That is because we are not engaged, we are not coming out, and that is where we are mobilizing the people that come together, let's
Yeah,
go to
I'm gonna-
Washington DC, let's meet the elected official, bring out the facts, show that how we are actually contributing back and making the difference into.
So, Kandari, thank you on that. In American politics, there's a saying that you are most successful when you're perceived as a victim. Just think about that for a moment. For too long, I started this conversation by saying we are the model minority. But along that, we've never tapped into the resentment. And Trump has normalized being able to speak your mind. Unfortunately, in a democratic establishment, it was considered different because there was a cancel culture if you didn't proverbially agree with some of those things. But there is an agreement today that I've heard that the US-India partnership is consequential. I've also agreed that we have to have a tremendous hope for the future and to look at this as a glass half full versus half empty. And I think what we're also hearing is that we have to advocate. We have to tell our story. We have to get our children to believe in the potential, knowing very well that they're being brought up in a school system and a college education where a new generation of professors is teaching them to believe that America is an unfair country. So I'm going to come back and just leave you with one question and allow each one of you. Have we as a community failed to see what Bernie Sanders talked about? And I'm not trying to spew anything, but Bernie Sanders identified that there's a forgotten class in America, a class left behind in this wealth generation. Even Silicon Valley, we created oligarchs. We're sitting in a district that has a $5 trillion net worth. But we have communities that are being shuttered with coal towns being closed. Trump spoke to the forgotten class, the aspirations of a forgotten class. Two different solutions of how they wanted to solve what's wrong with America. So I'm going to leave you with this. Do you think that as a community we have failed to capture the sentiment of income inequality in America? And while we've aspired for the proverbial brass rail, have we failed to serve the communities that expect us, that as people who succeeded, to give back to our communities, to uplift, educate, and help them understand who we are, good Americans? So, Madhu.
Okay. So I want to first go back to something I wanted to debate with this. So you're jumping to the next question. You're going too fast for me. So, okay. So I think, look, there are a few things we are kind of debating it. Hopefully everybody will debate this more. We need to solve, what is the problem to solve? I think we have so many problems with this. My approach as an entrepreneur, focus on pick one problem. Right now the problem is, how do we appease India, US administration, figure out a solution to the problem? All other things will settle once you solve, like root of the problems. That's number one. Second, we are all debating here and sitting there, but what is missing here is the people who are our own fabric, our generation that Vinita ma'am talked about. They're not here. Why? There are no VCs here, no CEOs are here. Ask yourself that. So this generation is completely failed us. Not our junior generation, our next generation. Our generation left us. Those guys are not part of the society. We are like sitting in a, like what she calls it, a sandwich. I call that a shitty sandwich. We are sitting there. This is a shitty sandwich. Our generation is a shitty sandwich people. Those guys are not helping us. So I want to be very clear. Let's not piss off on our junior generation or next generation. Our sandwich people, me and Kandera talked. Nobody is here. Where is Vinod Koshla is here? Where are all those VCs are there? They are not participating here. They are not even involved here. They not even want to support the India policy maker of FIIDS organization. So first thing we need to do is, we need to group ourselves in the organization. This community need to go, we need to increase the tent big enough to get our generation, whether they're, whatever level they are in the segment. Everybody can contribute. Let's get that community organized fully. And FIIDS should have maybe chapters in each cities, maybe a Boston chapter like Srikar Reddy talked about, or LA chapters, get all of them organized, decentralize it like Bitcoin and those blockchains do it. We got to figure out a solution to the problem. We have a problem. What is our problem? We are not doing a good job of marketing ourselves. We do not have a lobby. We don't know how to solve it. We are trying to go to a David versus Goliath fight with a small knife. So we are losers in this organization. So let's call ourselves saying that I am Muddu, I have a problem, and let's figure out how do we solve this problem. That is the problem we want to solve. Everything else we should stop debating it. We cannot defocus, guys. There are 20 other problems to talk about. That's why even though he asked me another question, I'm not interested in that question. I am a laser focused guy. I don't even register his question now. I only have one problem to solve. I am looking at, unless you solve that problem, everything else doesn't matter to me, right? And to solve the problem, I'm saying that we as a team are a group and a community not engaged. That is the problem we have. Let's not worry about next generation, previous generations, etc. Let's talk about our generation and create enough funds to use that funds, donate it, lobby it, whether you go to 20 congressmen or 400 congressmen, it doesn't matter, right? That is the problem that I want to solve.
I love this discussion, and being told that you've ignored me is perfectly fine. I'm thick-skinned. I've been doing this for 40 years. We'll do our next Washington Lobby Day is coming up. We're giving you 5 months.
Like me, I only focus on one problem.
Honestly, I'll tell you which members of Congress we want you to talk to. We arranged a meeting with Senator Risch, who is the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I'll give you one-on-one time. It'll be laser-focused. We're to talk about what we need. He's a Trump guy. I am going to Mar-a-Lago. Kandarauji and I are going too. We're going to meet with Marco Rubio. We're going to meet with President Trump's inner orbit. We're meeting with Susie, his chief of staff. There is a dichotomy of a discussion. And I want you each to think about this for a moment. You may disagree with me. You may come back and say, Yogi's full of shit. But that's fine. But I'll tell you, this discussion and dialogue about our advocacy and our voice of the future and bringing our children along with us, some of us are going to be hitting the 60s and 70s, and biology and nature teaches us that life does come to an end. Will our children advocate for India even if we give them a laser-focused problem? I want Indian Americans to believe about the potential of our community just like we rallied around Silicon Valley Bank. And the Biden administration, you were on that call when we had 100 venture capitalists talk about that because our self-survival depended on it. That is the passion and the intensity of our hope and aspiration. And how our diaspora is perceived in this country has a direct correlation to how India is seen in the world. But Anurag,
so
I don't want to come in the middle of the path through dinner, but this is an important point, so I want to prove
I'll
you.
be quick. This is one thing that I've learned with my students at Stanford. I actually probe them through a question and I let them engage, and you learn a lot that way. So I'm going to ask a two-part question. You mentioned a name, Bernie Sanders. I'm going to mention another name, Mamdani. Yes. Okay. How many of you think that Mamdani had his finger on the right problems for New York community? Show of hands. How many thought that he had the right problem figured out? I'm going to raise my hands, actually. He had identified the right problems for his community. How many thought that his solution was right?
Wrong.
And I'm going to end with a thought. So I'm part of Seva International. We have a number of Seva team members here. FIIDS does remarkable work. We have a number of organizations which are already starting to think about what that solution looks like, which is better than what Mamdani is proposing. Seva works with the local communities. We have 48 chapters. Every chapter works with the local underserved communities, addresses the very problem that Mamdani is talking about. But we do this with volunteers. We do this with support of Indian American donors. We do this with support of local governments. We are bringing everybody together. There's a big tent that we have created, and we are not negative about it. We're not dividing the community. We are actually bringing everybody together to do that. So that's one piece of that solution. And that's a solution that young people can get on board with. We have 2,000 high school students every year who join Seva to work with us on that. So that's an example of how we can actually attract young people to that cause, but also attracts adults. Many of you are Seva volunteers in the room. So I feel that there is an approach that we can take that is not economically radical, and yet it addresses the underlying need that our society has. So that's my point.
Guys, good job. Before you guys go to Mar-a-Lago, take a golden Silicon Valley icon and golden Taj Mahal and give it to Mr. President Trump. That should be your job. And I'm donating if you want to. Let's collect a donation for that. Let's solve the problem with that.
By the way, Don Jr.'s son was at Wharton. Huh? Don was at Wharton. His roommate was a family called the Lodias. They're Trump partners in India. That's our backroom conversation. So what FIIDS does is we have people-to-people interactions. We interact with people who believe have an ear. And that is a nuance of advocacy. It's not a zero-sum game. But to your point, let's all help each other understand how to solve this collectively. We can't do it. We need the Buddhas of the world, we need the Anurags of the world, we need each one of you in the room to allow us to build this over the next 25 years. Trump will be gone in 4 years. Is it a J.D. Vance or a Marco Rubio or a generation of Democratic progressives that are going to come back and seize the mantle? FIIDS has to engage at all levels. So Kandarao-ji, this conversation, I believe, has helped people to see the struggle of the conversations we face, but how we will never give up, how we're going to continue to seize the moment. So I'll give you the closing comments because this has been your baby. You've nurtured some of us to believe in this, and we're going to take for the heavens and catch hell on the way down. But we need all of you to lift us up. We cannot do this without you.
I think Yogi has already summarized it, and I am now between this and the dinner. But definitely, just as a couple of things I would like to say that people need to see that how the influence is actually manifest. When there was this encampment happening in the campuses, Harvard and all that thing, we started that all this funding started getting disappeared. Right, all this, and then definitely the university chairs started getting replaced. They had to resign. Even if you look at it, that I mentioned about the Heritage Foundation, which is a project 2025, one of the most powerful. Right now, it is in the huge controversy, is that Carl Strucker, he hosted a podcast with Nick Fuentes, who is an extreme right-wing, and Heritage Foundation's chair only supported it. He said that, not supported it, he said that just provided a cover to Carl, saying that it's okay, he just gave that, we should not be into cancel culture, conservatives should work together and all that thing. And there is a huge turmoil to a degree that huge resignations happen, and even the chairs and all that thing, they have to be replaced. I'm just giving the example, one of the most prominent institution in United States on the right-wing side had to, within a week, just on a matter of a statement about, even Heritage is not involved over there. Someone interviewed someone, Heritage chair just comments about that, and with that there is a meltdown over there. That is called the influence. That influence that community, Jewish community has built, right? That is the whole is about the anti-Semitism, because Nick is actually totally kind of he kind of denies the Holocaust. And with that, in such a kind of a backslash can happen to such a kind of a powerful institution that is called, and that is not because of one institution or one organization like FIIDS and all that thing. All these entrepreneurs, VCs, people at different levels, they are all united on one mission, one thinking. They may be separately doing all this activity. That is something, that phenomena that Indian Americans need to do that thing. We can do our own kind of a pursuit of happiness, American dreams, everything we can do. But when it comes to certain few things that we need to identify, they are not negotiable. And that is something that we need to come together and put our heart, our mind, our wealth behind that. So that is where I think this is just a FIIDS is the one mission, that to bring the people together, inspire the people, make sure that they understand what's happening. And coming back to this one, there is a lot of dynamics behind the scene that what Yogi mentioned, right? When all these things happening, that meeting the senator who is in charge of the Foreign Affairs Committee, discussing with the long-term US impact, is there any impact of this tariff on the long-term US-India relations and all that? How do we make sure that we navigate through all these things? There are definitely, there are different voices. There is a White House, I mean, those people who understand White House is the one thing, but Congress is a different, Senate is a different. So there are all this, understanding that how it plays and how we fit into that is also important. That's where the strategy and advocacy comes into the picture. With this, I will stop.
Thank you so much. A big round of applause for our entrepreneur, and Anurag Moral, professor and a great friend of our community. Thank you so much. Kandaraji, I think I'm going to pass this back to the MCs for this evening, and Harishi, please come along. Thank you so much.
Okay, before we conclude the program, I would like to thank each of you for coming and being part of our journey and to support FIIDS in whatever we do. And now onwards, please have dinner and enjoy music. So we have great singers with us, so please enjoy music in the evening. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. Am I heard?